There's a battle being fought right now. Not on a battlefield of blood, but in your brain. Not with weapons, but with notifications. Not with soldiers, but with dopamine. And every time you scroll, every time you click, every time you choose what's easy over what's meaningful, you cast a vote. A vote for comfort, a vote for escape, a vote against your future. This is the truth about instant gratification. It is a thief dressed in convenience. It whispers, just a little now, while stealing what could have been a lot later. It gives you pleasure in the moment, but robs you of pride in the morning. It feels like a reward, but it's really a refund, paid out of your purpose. And the worst part? Most people don't even realize they're in a war. They think they're relaxing. They think they're taking a break. They think they're just unwinding. But behind every binge, every shortcut, every scroll session that goes too long, there's a future that gets a little more delayed, a little more diluted, a little more disappointed. Because nothing great is built in the realm of now. Greatness lives in delay, in discipline, in denial of the easy thing so you can earn the extraordinary one. But that's not the world you were raised in. You were raised in a world that wants you addicted to the surface. Quick wins, quick likes, quick dopamine. It wants you checking your phone more than your soul, swiping more than reflecting, consuming more than creating. And if you let it, it will shrink your attention span to match your ambitions. It will trade your vision for validation. It will leave you hungry for something real while stuffing you full of empty moments. But you're done with that. You're done chasing the rush that leads nowhere. You're done pretending that satisfaction is the same as fulfillment. Because there's a difference. Satisfaction is easy. Fulfillment is earned. Satisfaction shows up in seconds. Fulfillment is built over seasons. Satisfaction feeds the body. Fulfillment feeds the soul. And the soul does not respond to convenience, it responds to commitment. So let's talk about that commitment. Let's talk about what happens when you say no to the now in service of the next. Because that's where the transformation begins. That's where you start shifting the axis of your life from reactive to proactive, from scattered to surgical, from distracted to dangerous. Because a focused person is a dangerous person. And nothing sharpens your focus like saying, I will not be ruled by impulse anymore. Not your sugar cravings, not your ego, not your boredom, not your need to be seen or heard or entertained every second. That's the threshold you must cross to. Go from pleasure seeker to purpose builder. It's not easy. It's not flashy. It won't get applause at first, but it will build you into someone unstoppable. Because when you master delay, you master life. When you master patience, you master power. When you master impulse, you own your future. And that future, it's waiting for you, not with a handout, but with a hammer. A hammer to build something real, something rare, something no algorithm can give you. But you only get to swing that hammer when you stop chasing the sugar highs of distraction and start chewing on the raw discipline of growth. Discipline, the antidote to instant gratification, the quiet king of transformation, the silent architect of greatness. Discipline is what gets you to the gym when your mind tells you to sleep in. Discipline is what opens the book instead of the app. Discipline is what makes the call when fear says, maybe tomorrow. Discipline is the muscle you build every time you deny the impulse to run and instead choose to rise. And every time you choose it, you get stronger, not just in body, in spirit, because you begin to realize that gratification delayed is not gratification denied. It's gratification amplified. It's pleasure with meaning. It's joy with depth. It's success with soul. And that kind of success, that kind of satisfaction, it's not addictive, it's foundational. It doesn't fade when the dopamine wears off, it stays. Because it was earned, brick by brick, decision by decision. Each moment you said no to the cheap hit and yes to the long game. And the long game, it's everything. Because the long game is where legends are made, where real wealth is built, where true love grows, where character is carved from pressure, not pampering. The long game doesn't pay out instantly, but when it does, it pays forever. And that's the lie of instant gratification. It teaches you to settle for crumbs when you were born to own the feast. It trains you to chase comfort, not capacity, to avoid the climb because it's steep, forgetting that everything worth having is uphill. So now you must ask yourself, which path are you choosing really? Not the one you post about, not the one you daydream about when motivation strikes, but the one your daily actions serve. Because every time you choose ease over effort, you don't just delay your dream, you vote against it. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, you sharpen the blade of your future. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about catching yourself in that moment before the scroll, before the snack, before the snooze button and asking, does this serve my future or sedate my present? And that question, it's everything. Because awareness is the beginning of power. Once you see the game, you can change the game. You can train yourself to find joy in the delay, to fall in love with the process, to crave the sweat more than the sugar, to look at the mirror of your habits and not flinch because you know what you're building is real. And real takes time. Real takes repetition. Real takes rejecting the applause of the now for the thunder of the later. That's the life you're stepping into now. A life where you are no longer ruled by notifications and numbers, but by purpose and precision. Where your goals are no longer just ideas, they are non-negotiables. Where your daily actions are not reactive, but rituals of becoming. Because every time you resist the impulse, you reclaim your integrity. Every time you delay the gratification, you deepen your roots. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure, you expand your capacity for greatness. And that capacity, that's what separates the average from the exceptional. Not talent, not luck, not timing, tolerance for delay, patience under pressure, faith in the unseen, conviction without applause. This is where your edge is born. Not in how fast you win, but in how long you're willing to build. Because instant gratification will give you comfort today and cost you the life you wanted tomorrow. But discipline will feel like suffering now, but it will give you everything later. It will give you peace. It will give you presence. It will give you power, the kind that can't be bought, borrowed, or hacked. And once you taste that kind of power, the kind earned through silence, sweat, and saying no, when every part of you wanted to say just this once, you'll never go back. You'll never again confuse the rush of dopamine with the richness of purpose. You'll never again choose convenience over conviction, because now you know the easy road always looks good at the start. But the hard road, the road of discipline, focus, sacrifice, that road builds kings. That road builds queens. That road builds legacies no algorithm can erase. So walk that road, even when it's quiet, even when no one sees you, even when every voice around you says, take the shortcut. And every voice inside you screams, what's the point? Walk it anyway. Because the point is this: you're not here for the sugar. You're here for the steel. You're here to become unshakable. You're here to be the one who could have quit, could have scrolled, could have numbed it all away, but didn't. You're here to remember that every moment you deny the cheap thrill, you affirm the deep truth. And that truth is this: your destiny is worth the delay. Your vision is worth the wait. Your purpose is worth the patience. The world doesn't need more people who can go viral. It needs more people who can go the distance. People who don't break when the applause stops. People who don't need instant validation because they're building long-term significance. People who know how to wait well, not with frustration, but with fire. People who don't just sit idly, twiddling their thumbs, but who prepare in silence, train in silence, build in silence, because they know silence is not absence. Silence is alignment. Alignment with the long arc of greatness. The kind that doesn't show up in minutes or likes, but in decades of living on purpose. That's what instant gratification will never give you. It'll give you a burst, but never a foundation. It'll give you distraction, but never direction. It'll give you motion, but never momentum. Momentum comes from stacking days, not moments. It comes from holding the line when your mind begs for a break. It comes from keeping the promise you made to your future self when you had energy, when you had clarity, when you had vision. And now that vision is calling again. It's not screaming, it's whispering. It's saying, just hold the line one more hour. Just push through this urge. Just build one more brick. And if you listen, really listen, you'll hear something powerful. That every time you win the battle against instant gratification, you don't just win a moment, you become a new person. A person who can be trusted. A person who can be followed. A person who doesn't just dream, they deliver. Because the world doesn't bend to those who want it now. It bends to those who can wait, work, and withstand. So let the others take the shortcut. Let the others chase the rush. You'll take the long road. Because you know that long roads lead to high places. And you weren't made for the valley. You were made for the mountain. Climb with scraped hands and a steady soul. Climb with blistered feet and burning lungs. Climb when it's lonely. Climb when it's dark. Climb when there's no map, just faith. Because every step you take, every craving you overcome, every small decision where you choose growth over gratification, that's a stake in the ground. A declaration to the world that says, I will not trade what I want most for what I want now. And that declaration, it reshapes you. It rewires your identity. It transforms you from someone who reacts into someone who rules. Because the moment you master your impulses, you become a creator, not a consumer. And the world was built by creators, not scrollers, not chasers, not comfort addicts who folded when things got inconvenient. It was built by those who could go without for a while to build forever, by those who could walk away from temptation, not because they weren't tempted, but because they were too committed to their mission to be seduced by the moment. So ask yourself right now, what is my mission worth? Is it worth the distraction? Is it worth the delay? Is it worth sacrificing over and over just to satisfy a fleeting urge? Because if it's not, then your dream was never real. But if it is worth more than momentary pleasure, then your decisions must match your declarations. Your habits must echo your hunger. Your standards must rise above society's schedule of convenience. Because greatness will never meet you where you're comfortable. It will always live just beyond your comfort zone, behind the locked door of your discipline. And only the consistent carry the key, not the lucky, not the talented, the consistent, the ones who show up every day to wage war against the easy thing, knowing the hard thing is what truly frees them. And make no mistake, this is war. A war between who you are and who you could be, between the current craving and the coming crown, between the false peace of indulgence and the real power of integrity. So armor up. Build habits that fight for you when your willpower fades. Build rituals that remind you who you are when your mind tries to forget. Build systems that hold you to your higher self when the lower self tries to take the wheel. Because the truth is, you are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not undisciplined. You've just been starving your potential and feeding your impulses. But that ends now. Now you feed your fire. Now you starve the thief of instant gratification. Now you walk with the rhythm of patience and the roar of persistence. And when you do, when you no longer crave the cheap hit, but chase the deep win, you'll look around and realize the climb was never about the mountain. It was always about becoming the kind of person who could stand on top of it. And when you stand there high above the noise, the shortcuts, the temptations, you won't just feel pride. You'll feel peace. Not because it was easy, but because you earned it. That's the kind of peace that can't be bought. It can't be scrolled into. It can't be delivered in 2 days. It's forged. It's earned. It's deserved. Because you became the person who could hold it. The person who didn't need the applause to move. The person who didn't need the dopamine to feel alive. The person who didn't need the quick fix because you built the long foundation. And now, you don't chase comfort. You command your future. You don't need the next hit of pleasure. You are high on purpose. You are full of discipline. You are focused. And most of all, you are free. Free from the cycle. Free from the chase. Free from the lies that say, you can't wait, you can't build, you can't rise. Because you've waited. You've built. You have risen. And you know what most don't? Instant gratification is a mirage. Discipline is the well of wealth, the well of peace, the well of everything that lasts longer than a few seconds. You're no longer sipping from shallow puddles of pleasure. You're drinking deep from the waters of purpose. And now you live differently. You choose differently. You are different because you've proven to yourself again and again that you can say no when it matters, that you can delay without dying, that you can walk away from what's easy and into what's eternal. So keep walking, keep rising, keep choosing discipline, not just as a habit, but as your home. Because discipline doesn't restrict you. It releases you. It frees you to build the life that impulse would have burned down. And now that you've seen the truth, you'll never trade your mountain for a moment again. You'll never sell your soul for speed again. Because you finally know the slow burn is the real power. The long path is the real prize. And the real youth, the highest you, is always waiting on the other side of the delay. Climb, rise, build, delay, win, repeat. Because this is who you are now. Not a seeker of the shortcut, but a sculptor of the soul. Not a slave to the impulse, but a master of the mission. Not a prisoner of the present moment, but a builder of eternal things, faith, character, legacy. And legacy doesn't come from quick choices. It comes from clear ones, from the clarity to know what matters, from the courage to reject what doesn't, from the consistency to choose it again and again and again, even when it costs you the comfort everyone else worships. Because this is the truth about instant gratification. It wants your crown. It wants your peace. It wants your greatness at a discount, and it will give you temporary relief in exchange for long-term ruin. But you're no longer available for that trade. You've seen behind the curtain. You've seen what's possible when you don't quit, when it's hard, when it's slow, when no one's watching. You've seen the version of you who's forged from fire, not fantasy. And that version, they don't beg. They don't chase. They build. They wait. They win. They hold the line until the victory bends to their name. Because in the end, life doesn't reward those who start strong. It rewards those who finish relentlessly. Those who walk when they can't run. Those who crawl when they can't walk. Those who keep their eyes on the mountain while the world tries to pull them back down. That's you now. A mountain-minded builder in a world full of moment chasers. You're no longer fooled by fast. You're no longer seduced by soon. You've chosen something bigger. You've chosen something better. You've chosen the truth. And the truth is this. Instant gratification may feel good, but discipline feels right. And when you build your life around what's right, not what's easy, you don't just change your outcomes. You change your identity. You become the one who can be trusted with power, trusted with influence, trusted with the vision that terrified your former self. You become the one who doesn't just talk about greatness, you live it. Quietly, daily, deliberately. And when others wonder how you did it, when they ask what your secret was, you'll look them in the eye not with arrogance, but with certainty and say, I stopped chasing what felt good now and started becoming what lasts forever. That's the truth. That's the path. That's the you the world has been waiting for. There's a mirror we all fear to face, a reflection not of vanity but of distortion, of a world where the surface is everything and depth is nothing, where charm replaces truth, where performance replaces presence, where the self becomes a brand, a weapon, a mask, anything but real. This is the age of narcissism. And if you're not careful, you'll breathe it in so slowly, so subtly, you won't even realize you've become what you used to fear. But let's start with the truth. No one dares say out loud narcissism isn't loud because it's confident. It's loud because it's empty. A hollow drum beating for attention. A mask screaming to be seen because underneath is a soul that was never taught how to be loved without performing. Narcissism is not born, it's built, layer by layer, trauma by trauma, lie by lie. It's the defense mechanism of the broken, the camouflage of the wounded, not an identity, a reaction. And once you understand that, you stop feeding it, you stop admiring it, you stop becoming it. Because this culture, our world, it rewards the narcissist, the curated, the influencer, the high performer who's dead inside but looks the part, the one who doesn't build, just broadcasts, the one who doesn't listen, only waits for their turn to speak, the one who has mastered the art of being liked, but has forgotten how to be known. That's the real epidemic. And if you don't wake up, you'll find yourself caught in it, performing your life instead of living it, trading depth for dopamine, posting instead of connecting, building a digital shrine to your ego while your soul starves behind the screen. But the truth, the deepest truth, you don't want to be admired, you want to be understood. You don't want attention, you want intimacy. You don't want fame, you want fulfillment. And none of that lives in the realm of narcissism. Narcissism takes, it consumes, it pretends. But real power, it gives, it builds, it anchors. It knows the difference between visibility and value. So here's the question. Where in your life have you mistaken visibility for value? Where have you become the brand instead of the being? Where have you stopped asking real questions because surface answers were quicker? This isn't just about others. This is about you, your mindset, your reflection, your truth. Because narcissism isn't always grandiose. It's not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in self-pity. Sometimes it wears humility like a costume. It's anytime you make everything about you, your wins, your pain, your story, not for healing, but for control. Not for growth, but for validation. And if you're brave enough, honest enough, awake enough, you'll see where it's crept in. Into your relationships where your need to be right has eclipsed your ability to be close. Into your dreams where being seen has replaced being useful. Into your daily choices where how it looks matters more than what it is. But you can change that right now. You can reclaim your depth. You can put the mirror down and pick up the work. You can stop performing and start becoming. Because your soul doesn't want likes. It wants life. Real life. Rooted life. A life where your mind isn't addicted to applause and your heart isn't chained to approval. A life where you can be great without being grandiose. A life where you can be whole without needing to be worshipped. A life where you don't confuse leadership with domination. Where you don't confuse charisma with character. Where you don't confuse being impressive with being impactful. Because real impact doesn't show off, it shows up. Real love doesn't manipulate, it holds space. Real growth doesn't flaunt, it flowers. And it all begins the moment you step off the stage and into the stillness. The moment you stop broadcasting and start building. The moment you stop echoing what the world rewards and start embodying what the soul remembers. So look in the mirror not for validation but for confrontation. Ask yourself, have I been seeking admiration because I forgot how to give affection? Have I been chasing platforms because I lost the foundation? Have I been trying to be followed because I'm terrified to be alone? That's where it starts. In the silence, in the questions, in the courage to turn inward instead of projecting outward. Because the cure to narcissism is not shame. It's honesty. And the medicine is not performance. It's presence. You don't heal the need to be seen by becoming invisible. You heal it by learning how to be real even when no one's watching. That's when the shift begins. When you start choosing purpose over praise. When you start listening more than you speak. When you start asking, who am I serving? Instead of, how do I look? When you care more about impact than image. When you stop proving and start providing. When you stop taking up space and start creating space. This is where you return to yourself. The part that doesn't need a crowd. The part that doesn't need constant affirmation. The part that knows deeply that you were never here to perform. You are here to build, to connect, to contribute. That's your way out. Out of the mirror. Out of the loop. Out of the performance trap that keeps so many stuck in empty cycles of validation without value. But make no mistake, this isn't easy. It's easier to impress than to impact. It's easier to be followed than to be known. It's easier to look successful than to be fulfilled. But easy is a drug, and it will rot your purpose. You want to live a different way? Then walk the harder path, the deeper path, the path that leads away from narcissism and back to you. Because the deeper path demands more than polish. It demands presence. It calls for you to shed the image, to shatter the illusion, to let the mask fall, even if it crashes with the weight of everything you thought made you valuable. It calls you not to be admired, but to be authentic. And that is where the real work begins. You see, narcissism is a hollow victory, a throne built on sand. It gives you the illusion of power, but strips you of peace. You can be idolized and still feel invisible. You can be followed by millions and still feel unseen. You can win the world and lose your soul, not because you weren't successful, but because you were successful at becoming someone you're not. But here's the truth. You are not here to be a brand. You are here to be a beacon. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to create. You are not here to be worshiped. You are here to wake people up. But to wake others up, you have to wake up first. Wake up from the hypnosis of ego. Wake up from the addiction to validation. Wake up from the cycle of needing to be more, do more, post more, just to feel like you're enough. Because enough was never out there. Enough was always in here. In your quiet integrity. In your consistent truth. In the way you show up when there are no likes, no cameras, no audience. In the way you keep building when no one's clapping. That's where your power lives. And yes, the world might not celebrate it. Because real doesn't trend. Real doesn't scream for attention. Real doesn't beg to be seen, it just is. And that's what makes it unstoppable. You want to change your life? You want to escape the trap of shallow success and empty noise? Then turn inward. Find your center. Return to your why. And then begin to strip away every layer that was built on fear instead of truth. Because the truth about narcissism is that it doesn't just hurt others, it kills you. It kills the soft parts, the kind parts, the humble, curious, open parts of you that are willing to learn, willing to admit fault, willing to grow. Narcissism makes you a god in your mind and a ghost in your heart. You float above criticism. You float above feedback. You float above change until life forces you to land. And when you do, you realize the house you built in the clouds can't stand in the wind. But here's the hope. You can rebuild. This time on rock, on truth, on service, on something deeper than applause. You can build a life where you don't just look good, you feel good. Where you don't just impress others, you respect yourself. Where you don't just accumulate, you contribute. Because the measure of a life well lived is not how loudly it echoes through the world, but how deeply it resonates in the quiet moments. When no one's watching, when it's just you and your reflection, when it's just you and the life you built, not the one you posted. In those moments, your ego has no stage. Only your spirit does. And the question will always be, did I live for impact or for image? Did I lead with love or with performance? Did I build what mattered or just what sold? Because you can't fake fulfillment. You can't edit peace. And you can't filter purpose. You have to live it daily, deliberately, deeply. And that kind of living It begins the moment you stop asking to be admired and start committing to be real. Real, even when it's not easy. Real, even when it's not rewarded. Real, even when it costs you the spotlight. Because your soul doesn't want fame. It wants freedom. And the only way to be free is to be true. So be true. Uncomfortably true. Radically true. So true that your life becomes a contradiction to everything artificial, everything inflated, everything loud and hollow in this world. Because when you live that way, when truth becomes your oxygen and authenticity, your compass, you become untouchable in the ways that matter. They can't cancel you because you're not performing. They can't manipulate you because you're not chasing their approval. They can't distract you because you're not trying to keep up, you're rooted. And that's the real cure, not some self-help trend, not some branding strategy, not another motivational mask to hide behind. The cure to narcissism is depth, and depth is born in silence, in solitude, in stillness. It grows not on stages, but in the unseen choices. When you pause instead of posting, when you listen instead of lecturing, when you serve instead of showing off, that's where your character sharpens. That's where your mission refines. That's where you begin to lead, not from charisma, but from conviction. And make no mistake, we are dying for that kind of leadership. Not more influencers, not more icons, but anchors. People who hold when everything shakes. People who choose integrity over image. People who would rather build quietly than perform loudly. People who see the lie and refuse to live it. That can be you. You don't have to burn your ego in public. You don't have to shout your transformation. You just have to live different. Think different. Choose different. And that choosing, that daily choosing, is how you rewrite everything because you've seen what the other path leads to. You've seen the emptiness that comes with being adored but never truly known. You've seen what happens when your self-worth is dependent on someone else's attention span. You've seen the cost of curating instead of connecting. And now you're done. You're done pretending. You're done over-explaining. You're done feeding the image while your identity starves. You want the real thing, a real life, a real you, a real voice that doesn't echo the noise it cuts through it. And to do that, you must walk away from the seduction of being everything for everyone and become everything you were meant to be for yourself. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And the moment you step into it truly, without hesitation, you become more than someone who overcame narcissism. You become someone who outgrew it, who looked it in the eye, thanked it for the mirror, and then moved forward with substance. That is where your power lives. In substance, in spirit, in the depth the world forgot. But you remembered. And now you live it fully, freely, unapologetically, for no one else but the truth itself.